Hello everyone, Bag here. This is kind of my first non-scripted video for this channel, unless if you want to count the relic tier list video that I made a couple months ago with my friends. In any case, this is really unusual for me, so bear with me if there's a lot of stuttering or a lot of just run-on sentences. But before we get into anything else, I just want to say thank you for 5,000 subscribers, or it's at like 5.7k now. I didn't think I would get anywhere near here anytime soon. I had kind of a lofty goal of like 4,000 by the end of 2024, but I went from like 3.8 to 5.2 in like 2 days, and I still don't really know how that happened. If you couldn't tell, I'm a bit of a numbers guy, so seeing the number go up is just kind of fuel for my monkey brain, but in any case, I do appreciate every single one of you, and I really have no idea what to expect going into 2025, but I hope all of you can stick around for any of the content that I put out. For now, we have some questions here from a community post that I posted about 2 weeks ago, so we have a bit of a Q&A on our hands. There's an even split of questions about myself and about HSR in general and what I think of it, so I'll try and alternate between the two. So the first question is from Matrix 3 Mutonium. I think that's how you say that. And they ask, when did you start covering HSR leaks and what was your motive behind it? And then they say, also, I love the fact that you were basically the only person who uses their real voice when making these vids. Keep making quality content, man. Well, thank you. I'm not actually the only person who makes this kind of content for HSR leaks with their real voice. I'll put someone on screen right now and in the description who makes kind of similar content to what I do. But regardless, thank you for the kind words. To actually answer your question, I started making videos on TikTok at around June of 2024. So that's about 2 months before I started making content on YouTube. But I didn't actually start covering leaks until around 2.4, so with Yunli, Jiaoshu, and the Hunt March. Back then, I didn't know anything about copyright when making content, so I just showed the raw footage, and that obviously got me into trouble. So it's been a constant battle of changing my content to not be copyright struck since then up until right now. As for my motive behind it, well, for content in general, I just like talking about this game. I think this game is really fun to theorycraft and to just observe the meta as it evolves. I mean, obviously power creep and HP inflation are really frustrating, but I still think the discussion around it is still interesting enough, and especially the content around leaks and how characters change throughout the beta is kind of the most exciting part of the game for me at this point, so making content around it just seemed kind of natural. I was kind of pushed to make content because my brother, who is Fire Lunar on TikTok, started making content around 2021-ish, and he got a lot of success, and so kind of watching him rise through the ranks and getting a lot of acclaim kind of made me want to try out the same thing. And so his signature series back then was the manga restock roundup, and so I kind of wanted to do a similar kind of roundup kind of news section as my kind of signature thing, and it kind of took off. So yeah, even besides YouTube, I'm still new to this stuff. I've only been making content for about like 7 months. So that's why there's no real flashy editing yet for any of my videos, but maybe in the future, who knows. Next, we have a question from Who My Soul, who asks a Stargirl question. Who do you think the best E0 S1 character is? So I think it's a pretty common opinion that I also hold that supports are the most important units to actually invest into, either horizontally or vertically. So even though there's a lot of carries that really want their Lycones, like Acheron, I think this question is still just Robin. Ranmai's Lycone is really good, but it's kind of weird since it doesn't really help her with break damage that much, and DDD is better in break teams most of the time. So I think Robin just wins out since her Lycone just helps her be even more universal, since charging up her ultimate is usually the worst part about her, and this gives her enough ER to be more comfortable. Next, the Suck Pack 3000, great name there, asks,
Can you tell me your favorite part of the Zenless story? Bro, shut the fuck up. I was bag.
So yeah, for context, this was a voice donation that I sent using my Twitch Prime because I don't actually use money on Twitch. If you don't know, Ziox is the Hoyoverse creator that I watch the most by far. I watch most of his streams and I maybe put like 2 messages in chat per stream. So if you're in his chat, you might see me every now and again. I've been recognized like once, maybe. To actually answer the question for myself though, I guess the 1.4 story was enjoyable enough, but I wouldn't really say that any of the ZZZ story has really been that amazing for me by any means. I don't really play Zenless for the characters or the story, I just really like the combat, so I guess it's a bit of an unfair question to ask someone else when I really can't answer it myself, but whatever. Aiden Lee 2574 asks, if you can buff/nerf/rework a character or a Lycone, what would you do? I think that's a really good question. I think, honestly, in a perfect world, Yanqing would be like as strong as Clara to fit with him being on the standard banner. Like, even for him being a launch carry, he really just is unusably bad. For buffing him, I think the most obvious point would be to buff how long his ult duration is from 1 turn to like 2 or 3. Or you can maybe do something where like every time he uses his ult, he gets like less energy cost, so the longer the fight goes on, the more he can ult, or something like that. I don't know, I just want Yanqing to be viable because I do actually like his playstyle, but his numbers are just so bad. For a Lycone, I would maybe give Preservation some kind of equivalent to Quid Pro Quo. in terms of just giving team-wide utility. Because right now preservation doesn't really have a universal light cone that you really just want to slap onto every preservation unit. The only real standout light cone is Trend, but that's only useful for like 2 units in the game. So maybe like Texture of Memories gives energy to whoever has a shield at the start of their turn or something, I don't know. Insert stupid username here 2888 says, congrats big man, outside of HSR, what games do you like to play and do you have any preferred genres? So befitting of me liking HSR more than Genshin or ZZZ, I am a big JRPG fan. So Fire Emblem is a big one. I've played every game except for 1, 2, and half of 3. Pokemon is another obvious one, as well as Persona, and I also loved SMT5, and I should play the rest of the SMT games sometime. And also I recently played Metaphor ReFantasio as well, and that game was also amazing. Metaphor honestly might have my favorite gameplay of any game, maybe tied with SMT5, I don't know. And Omori probably has my favorite story out of any game. I also play some live service games with friends like Valorant and Marvel Rivals, and back in the day I was really good at Smash, but I haven't played in like 2 years because the online is terrible, and if you are wondering, I was a Mii brawler main. Minecraft Man 5509 says, describe one thing that you would add/remove from HSR's 3 endgame game modes. So MOC, Pure Fiction, and Apocalyptic Shadow. And then they give their own answers, which I'll put on screen as I talk about my own. So for MOC, I would say besides the HP inflation, which has gotten really bad recently, I would agree that the most frustrating thing about it is just how restrictive a lot of the buffs can be. Since out of the 3 endgame game modes, it's really the only one where you can't really choose any of the buffs that you have per side. So if we do ever get another dot 5-star, then they're gonna make the MOC a dot buff, and then everyone's gonna suffer. So I would really prefer if that kind of design just did not exist in this game. For Pure Fiction, I wouldn't really want to change anything just because they just iterated on it, and in my opinion, it was improved considerably, so I wouldn't really know what to improve on until we get a lot of rotations of it where a lot of the problems can maybe shine through after a while. So for now, I would just say to wait and see. And then for Apocalyptic Shadow, I wish it was less break reliant, as having an entire gimmick have an entire game mode is just kind of weird. They can't really make it a designated hunt mode while still having it be the main theme of just going against a lot of the bosses, because they can't really make all of the bosses' gimmicks fit into the hunt playstyle. But I do wish that a lot more of the fights had more unique gimmicks that could be more amicable to a lot more team comps. Sort of like how the Aventurine fight was adapted, and also the TV fight that's going on right now. But really the answer to all 3 of the modes is just for the HP inflation, as I think power creep has gone a bit out of hand, especially as we are going into 3.0. But that's kind of wishful thinking, and I kind of know it's not going to happen, so that's not my actual answer. Nueva Main asks, which are your 5 favorite characters based on their lore? I'm not the biggest lore head. Like, I don't skip any actual quests, but I also don't look into any of the actual, like, deep lore that people make the lore videos about. I'm really just the most average member of the player base when it comes to actually understanding what's going on in the lore. But I would say for characters, Aventurine and Boothill definitely are on there, and I would also maybe put Sunday, and then also Jingliu, sure, and Fei Xiao. Guoba the God 9432 asks, do you like seals? And then they clarify animal seals. I guess if any of you have played Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, they had that Shadows feel that you could get early in the game. And I played the shit out of that game when I was a kid, and I always had that Shadows feel in my party. So I guess if that counts, then yeah, I like seals. Sure, why not? It's Mob asks, why did you decide to start covering HSR leaks, and why did you decide to cover HSR in general? And if you consider it, please cover ZZ leaks too, please. Well, for the first part, I already kinda answered it with the first question of this video, but for leaks specifically, I think gameplay leaks specifically are really important to have around because they help stave off FOMO. Like, if you avoid leaks entirely, then you are really not that informed when it comes to the next patch and what you should or should not be pulling for. And with how rough HSR's power creep has been recently, I think being as informed as possible is something that really doesn't have any downsides to it, personally, at least. I know leaks get a bit of a bad rap, and I think story leaks specifically shouldn't really exist, and I kinda hate that they do. But when it comes to understanding a character's kit ahead of time and knowing whether or not you want to save based off of that, I think being able to help people make that decision has been a big reason for why I've been so consistent with it, for the short time that I've made content so far. And then again, the reason why I chose to really cover this game in the first place is just because I like talking about it. I do have friends that play the game, but not really to the level that I do, so talking about new characters or the new beta versions wasn't really something that really mattered to them that much, and I can kind of tell. At the end of the day, I'm just a yapper, and this YouTube channel is just a place for me to yap. It's really nothing more than that, but I'm really glad that I have found an audience that will listen to me yap. I really didn't think I would get above like 1K until like multiple years of doing this. And the amount of positivity that I've gotten on a lot of my videos has really been surprising for me, especially when I was just coming off of TikTok, where a lot of the comments are a lot more constructive, I guess is a way to put it. So again, thank you everyone for sticking around and giving me time to improve my content. Video editing and voicing and all of that is still really new to me, so hopefully in the next year I can improve even more, because I know I have a lot to improve on. For the ZZZ part of the question, I'm much more of a consumer of ZZZ leaks rather than someone who would actually want to cover it myself. Like, I do pay attention to leaks, but I'm not actively studying them or really keeping up with every single change or anything like that. I did do a community poll way back in the day if people were interested in ZZZ content, but I think even if I did ZZZ content, it wouldn't be leaks. I don't know, maybe my mindset will change in the future, but for right now, HSR is just kind of where I'm committed in terms of actually putting the effort into making good content. I think if I tried to do the same for ZZZ, it would make sense for my channel, but I just wouldn't really like it personally right now. Alright, next question. Elgrin Heeman 955, I hope I said that right, asks, do you play League of Legends? League of Legends is probably the game that I played the most throughout middle and high school, but I am like 2 years sober and I do not look back on it at all. I've been in a lot of communities in my time on the internet, and I can really say with confidence that League of Legends has the most toxic fanbase, at least in-game. Like, people will flame you on any team-based game you play, that's just how the internet works. But League is just on another level entirely. I would come back to it very briefly and just play a couple ARAMs or something, and I would just be reminded like, oh yeah, people just send you death threats like every 3 games. And okay, I think this is the last question that I want to cover today. We have Warden3968 who asks, if you were Bag, what are you now? So first off, I was Bag is a pretty recent name that I've been using on the internet. I used to be K-Day, which I still am on Steam, I think, and then ManManXX was like the Minecraft name that I made in like 3rd grade, I don't know why. But I knew I Was Bag was a banger because I would get into games in League and stuff, and people would ask this question maybe once every 4 games. So any name that makes people react to it in any way that's not overtly negative is a name worth keeping in my opinion. I do think it's a good bit that I haven't revealed it up until now, but it's not really a bit that you can understand without me revealing it, if that makes sense. But the Bag in I Was Bag is actually an acronym. The full name is I Was Born a Gamer. I have to say it's a purely ironic name, but I saw one of those t-shirts with like a fetus with an Xbox controller, and they were like glowing green, and they were just like, I was born a gamer. And when I thought about the potential of that as a name, it just stuck. So yeah, the whole Bag thing is just a coincidence from the acronym, but I honestly kind of like that version of the name than the actual full-on name. So even though that's the origin of where my name came from, you don't actually have to think about it as my name like that, because I basically never do anyways. Alright, with that, that's all the questions that I wanted to cover. Thank you to everyone who sent them in, and once again, thank you to everyone who decided to stick around for my content. Trust me, it means a lot to me. The 3.1 beta video should be up on Tuesday, and later on the same day, I will be doing my first ever livestream on the 3.0 release. So if you want to follow me on Twitch or just look out for it on YouTube, that'd be great. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye!